Welcome! Welcome to this PowerPoint where we're going to provide you with some guidance in the use of the Critical Reading Inventory online. And when it comes to the use of the CRI, the first question, what is your purpose? And we need to reflect a minute about the importance of purpose. And we're going to have a guest. Remember Alice in Wonderland? When she meets the cat and says, "Would you tell me, please, which way I ought to go from here?" And the cat says, "That depends a good deal on where you want to get to." And Alice says, "I don't much care where." And the cat says, "Then it doesn't matter which way you go." But folks, for reading specialists, it matters. Why? We need a goal to direct us so that we, through assessment, make wise instructional decisions. Keep in mind that the ultimate goal we had in the creation of the CRI, thoughtful literacy. Let's listen to this sentence found in the manual. For us, critical reading is thoughtful literacy, a dynamic process of thinking about what we read and how it fits in with our own ideas and values, the ideas of others, ideas we have encountered in the past, and ideas that we accept or reject. So with that in mind, we can take that as our goal and say, what are the options that I have in the use of the CRI for assessment? First of all, you can use the inventory for a comprehensive analysis. That means you're going to look at strengths, you're going to look at weaknesses, you're going to look at things that could have contributed to where the student now stands so that you could establish reading levels. Also, you can, if you're a classroom teacher, conduct an at-grade level assessment, only using the current grade level materials. Or you can use the CRI for progress monitoring. What's the agenda for this specific module? We're going to provide guidance with at-grade level assessment. If the teacher wants to know how his or her student will do on an assessment that makes use of higher level thinking, the CRI is your best bet. Now in the future you will see PowerPoints. First of all, one providing guidance with a comprehensive analysis, and one, the use of the CRI for progress monitoring. But now let's look at grade level assessment. What are you going to need? How are you going to do it? First of all, you need the word list only at grade level. Before you administer the measure, you have printed out both the examiner and student forms. You need passages again only at the grade level, one to be used for oral reading and one for silent reading. And again, both must be printed out prior to the assessment. So, word list, what are you going to do? First of all, when you administer the flash, the purpose for this is to have insight into a student's current sight vocabulary, those words recognized instantly. The untimed, that provides you with some idea about the student's word analysis skills. Now, how do you do this? Well, you need to have 2 3x5 cards. And you take your 3x5 cards, both of them, cover the word, in such a way that when you slide the bottom card down, a word shows. You hold that open for a silent count of 101. Close. And what you do is you bring down the top card and it bumps the bottom card. So again, slide the bottom card down, show the word count 101, bring the top down, and close. If the child is correct, you move to the next word in the flash. You only make use of the untimed presentation when an error was made on the flash. Now, folks, please, if you have any questions whatsoever, there's a video that's included in the Help category on the CRI homepage, the last category on that homepage. Now, oral reading passage. Did you see this? Loud and clear. Record. Record the entire time. Even when silent reading. Why? You can later on, if you need to, measure the time. So, with oral reading, you're going to use the miscue and Alice markings as the child reads. So you have the sheet in front of you, the child's reading, and you are marking on the form, on the examiner form, any and all miscues made by the student. Later, when this is finished, you evaluate the miscues so that you could determine whether the child attempted to make sense. If that's so, then you're going to put a plus in the column on the examiner forms in the line where the miscue happened. If the miscue violated sense, you're going to mark a 0. All right? So, let's see. What would that look like? So here we have one that was done. You'll see here we have a self-correction. Here we have an omission. It made sense. Here we have a substitution. It didn't make sense. Here we have an insertion. So that's what the coding will look like at the end after you have evaluated the miscue. Move on to oral reading. After the child reads the passage orally, the child's guided to retell the story. After the retelling, the comprehension questions are asked, and in the CRI, we have text-based, higher-level inferences, and critical response questions. What you will do is obtain 2 scores. After the oral reading task, you have what's called a Reading Accuracy Index, RAI. And that score is determined by the inclusion of every single miscue made. However, the Meaning Maintenance Index, MMI, that score reflects only miscues that violated meaning. So MMI can never be lower than RAI. Okay? So, what's the most important thing here? Comprehension scores. Why? What you want to do is you want to contrast oral comprehension score with MMI. RAI and MMI are contextual reading tasks. Often it's determined by the student's fluency level. So if a student has a very high MMI, we're happy as long as that's followed with a high comprehension score. We're going to note the student's performance for all 3 question types. Again, we're happy if the child does well with text-based, but not at the expense of higher level questions. So, what does this look like? You take your examiner's form, you type in the student responses from the recording and notes that you had. All right? So, there is what it will look like when the testing is finished. Silent reading. You're going to repeat the steps, except you won't have an oral reading task. So the child will be reading this time silently. Ask to retell and then answer questions. Please record all responses verbatim, record the whole session. It's scoring time. Be sure you've completed the comprehension and retelling tutorials before you score either. And if you haven't done the tutorials, the minute this PowerPoint is over, do the tutorials. We have a PowerPoint to guide you in the tutorials. Scores for both the retelling and the comprehension questions can be either full credit, partial credit, or no credit. Again, you transcribe and you record grading notes on the examiner form. So what will that look like? Remember, we just looked at this, the recorded. But notice now what's going to happen. Sign of difficulty with key details. A problem with sequence here. This happened before the alligator situation. What does it say here? Pure speculation on the part of the reader. So jot down notes so that you, when you study it, you have some very significant information available. At that time, you're ready to input data into that ASII. And look at that computer whiz. All right? What's the recapitulation record look like? I'm zooming in here. When you are using at grade level, this is all you will ever see. The scores for the 1 grade level. Let me suggest here, whatever the score is, use that to insert either frustration, instruction, or independent, whatever the score has. Why? Because down here, you will get the summary of everything. So when you study here, your text bases, inferences, and critical response, keep in mind here, 8 text-based questions were asked. So I come up here and I say, wow, do you realize that 5 of 8 were correct? So I jot down, that's 62%. These are notes I take right on the recapitulation record. I do the same for inferences and critical response. So now I could study this and say, wow, this student is doing significantly better with text than with higher level thinking. And folks, sadly, that's a pretty common pattern. Okay? So here we have it. We have the difference between the flash, untimed, isolated word presentation versus contextual. We've got the oral, the silent, the average. We have the retelling, and we have the comparison. This is a very important score. Here we have it. Oral comprehension of 30 followed with an MMI of 100. Folks, that's a concern. So what do we write? I'm going to even enlarge it a bit more so you're sure to see it. This student is strong with sight vocabulary, 100, and word analysis. Also strong with contextual reading, 99 for RAI and 99 for MMI. Major problem here is comprehension, primarily higher level. There's a pretty good sign here, though. When for silent reading, here's the comprehension score right here, 65. That's very near instruction. So I've got a powerfully good feeling here because that's authentic reading. And when that happened, look at how successful this student, strong text base. So what I want to do is I want to emphasize in my instruction strong purpose for reading for this student. But because I want to increase this ability with oral reading, when will I do that? Folks, watch. If you're a follower of Russell Stauffer, you're very familiar with his concept of oral rereading. That means that after the story's been read silently and discussed thoroughly, then you send the student back to the story that's been discussed and find in that story sentences or paragraphs that will support the answers and ideas discussed during the post-reading discussion. And studying this provides you with a goal. We're not wandering, we know where we're going. So you're all set to do that at grade level for the students in the class, or to guide a teacher to do so. And what does our little friend say? We've come to the end of this. That's all for now, folks. But we hope to see you real soon.